Hello fellow collectors and welcome to Long's Toys. Today we are taking a look at Warrior Class Dinobot Snarl from Transformers Bumblebee Cyberverse Adventures. That's right, just when you thought this line was dead, they come out with a whole new wave of figures. Now, as far as I know, the cartoon's been over for a while and they keep teasing about some movies that I think are going to go straight to Netflix, if I'm not mistaken. So I don't know if the Dinobots are going to show up in that or not, but they have this whole kind of Dinobot motif that they're going through now. If we take a look at the back, you can see it says Dinobots Unite. I don't know if that's going to be like a little sub tag for the name of this season or whatnot. We'll have to wait and see. But this guy actually looks pretty cool. So as we know, as we've seen in the past, Warrior Class figures for Cyberverse are kind of very hit or miss. And I don't usually pick up a lot of them. But I thought this guy was actually pretty cool. And I found this on the Hasbro Toy Shop eBay store. So if you're looking for this, definitely check over there. This whole line is not really out yet, or I should say this wave is not really out yet, but that just randomly kind of showed up on their website, and I bought it and they shipped it and it got here in like 2 days, which is pretty cool. So here on the back, you can see we have the robot mode, we have the Stegosaurus mode. I think the robot mode kind of looks a lot better, but we'll see when we get this out of the packaging and we can take a closer look. It says it has some kind of power slash. It says convert to activate. I have no idea what that's going to be, so we'll figure that out as we go. Let's go ahead, let's get him out of the packaging here, and we'll take a closer look. So here is Snarl out of the packaging. I think he actually looks pretty good. I think they did a nice job with him. Doesn't have a ton of kibble or anything. A little bit down here on the side of the legs, you get the dino head just kind of hanging off, and you got another leg down here, but other than that, he's pretty clean. He really kind of reminds me of his Action Master from back in the day, but obviously with a lot more posability. We'll take a close-up look at the head sculpt. I think they did a nice job. Nice silver paint for the face, the blue eyes, all the detail there. You got the Autobot symbol on the chest. All looks really good. Head can turn from side to side. So it's a little tight, but you got movement there. You have a ball joint here in the shoulder, and you can actually go straight out, which is nice. Now, he does have this hinge right above the ball joint elbow. It's really for the transformation, but it is kind of a double jointed elbow there, so you can get a nice range of motion there. So you have that hinge, and then you have a ball joint down here. Nothing in the waist. Down here for the hip, you can kick forward, you can kick back, you can kick decently out to the side. I don't think that can go all the way up. And then you have pretty much 180 for the knee because of the transformation. And you got the stego plates, and like I said, you got that kibble hanging out down here. And it's just hollow back here, but that's a necessity. But honestly, I think he looks pretty good. Like I said, pretty clean. Now, the way the action feature works is actually kind of impressive. So you see this lever here, and this can move the arm up and down so you can get the slashing feature. But honestly, if you kind of just held that, you get the full range of motion out of the ball joint in the shoulder. So it's kind of the best of both worlds. It's kind of like you have the action feature, but you can completely ignore it if you'd like, because it really doesn't hinder anything. Nothing's stuck in place. Nothing's at a weird angle. You've got a completely normal arm if you want it, but then you can also use this slashing feature if you would like. So I think that's kind of cool. It's kind of one of the better executed ones that I've seen, which is really nice. He does come with 2 accessories. Of course, we have that sword, which will go ahead and pop into his hand so that we can simulate the slashing. I guess I should probably... How do I want to do this? I guess I want to do it like this, so we can slash downward. But again, you can completely ignore it if you want and put him in whatever pose you'd like. Kind of a softer rubber plastic here for the sword. It's okay. There's nothing wrong with it. It's not amazing. Got a decent amount of detailing on it, which is kind of cool. Now, he's got this massive tailpiece, which is really just, you know, they didn't know what to do with this. It's got these little tabs that you kind of have to get past to make it click all the way down. So this is just a big honking, you know, piece of plastic here. It's kind of a softer piece, especially the yellow here. I'm assuming all of this yellow is just molded out of the same kind of softer rubbery plastic. Not super squishy, but it's definitely more malleable than, say, like even this part of it right here. Now, this has a peg hole right here, and this piece is supposed to flip around. So you have 2 options. You can either put this on the back, you can peg it onto this little thing right here, and it just looks absolutely ridiculous because it's so massive. Or, even more ridiculous, you can peg it on the hip down here, which just completely, you know, gets in his way of everything and looks absolutely ridiculous. And honestly, you might even ask yourself, well, why in the heck would I ever want it to be here on the hip? Well, it does act as a sheath for the sword. So you can actually pop the sword right in here and it can kind of hold it there. So that's kind of a cool feature. You can put it on the back or on the hip, depending on where you'd like to mount it, and it will hold his sword, which is kind of cool. But it's so big and it's so massive that I kind of just like to throw it off to the side because I really feel like he looks better without it. Now it is Snarl, and he's missing the classic tail wings, and that's why I said this really reminds me of the Action Master, because that didn't have them either. I wish there was some way you could kind of, like, even if this was just two pieces that you just pegged together, and you could take them apart and then just kind of peg them on his back, you know, so you could have like half the wing here or something like that. That would be really cool. Like, all they would have had to do, instead of having this gimmick, do it exactly the same, but just have this be able to split down the center, and then you just peg it back together when you need to put it in the dyno mode, and then just have it so you could just peg them here on the back. And that's all you'd have to do. Even if it like still flipped around and you could just do it like that, like how much better would that look if he had two of those on the back like that? That would look really good. But anyway, he's still not bad. Still not bad without it. I'm just going to put it off to the side. So yeah, honestly, I think it's a cool little robot mode. Kind of basic, but they did a nice job with the paint applications. And like I said, I really like how the action feature doesn't really hinder any of the articulation at all. So I really appreciate that. But let's go ahead. We'll get to the transformation. It's very, very basic. Okay, so transformation for this guy. Like I said, he reminds me of his Action Master. The transformation reminds me very much of Pretender Grimlock, if you've had any experience with that figure. It's literally just kind of like put the arms down, flip the legs, and you're done. So basically what we're going to do with this, you're going to use that upper elbow bend and then just kind of swivel this around. And there are your back dino legs. So again, this goes down, this swivels around, and you're pretty much done there. This is going to flip around, and then this one will flip around, and that's done. And then you flip the head pieces around, and then you just bring these legs down. Now they kind of have like a little tab. They don't really tab in, but there's just kind of like a little nub in here that they just kind of like stop on. So you just kind of position this until they're about even so that he'll stand. And then you can see there is your dino. No, wait, we're not done. So you bring these pieces back in. You can actually go ahead and put the sword in here, and it will store it for the dino mode, which is kind of nice. And then you want to flip this around, and like I said, you can see how it has these little tabs on the side. You just want to make sure that they clear so that this goes all the way down. And now you have these two softer rubber pegs that are going to have to peg into this and this. So you just kind of have to pop the head in and then just kind of like bring this up and situate this so that this will peg in. And it's kind of difficult, and you kind of have to put this down a little bit so that there's room for it. And it's really kind of difficult to line up, but I promise it does work. And it's also kind of difficult because they are that softer rubber plastic, but eventually you can get those to peg in, and then you're good to go. So then we'll just kind of line up the feet, and there is our Stegosaurus. He's okay. I mean, he's not great. He's not terrible. I understand why this is all the same color plastic, but I really wish that this was gray to match the rest of this, because it's very jarring that it's just, you know, this part of him is gray and then all of a sudden this is just solid yellow. Like for the tail, I think I could get behind it because that definitely feels like a separate piece. But this part here definitely feels like it should have been part of the body, and I wish that that wasn't completely yellow. I get why it is, but I wish it wasn't. Not too much robot kibble hanging out underneath. So yeah, he's fine. I mean, the Stego mode's fine. It's not really much to say about it. Honestly, you have a little bit of leg articulation, so you can move that. You can move this. Technically, you could move, you know, the elbows that you had in the arm. Anything you had in the arm and robot mode is still here. Tail doesn't move or anything like that. I mean, it's got nice spikes. I think the spikes look good. I think they did a good job with that. Dino head's okay. The blue eyes are painted nicely. Mouth doesn't open or close or anything like that. So yeah, he's not terrible. He's not amazing, but he's all right. So at the end of the day, he's fine. I think he's got a pretty solid little robot mode. I think he's got good articulation. I think the paint applications look good. Head sculpt's nice. The sword's fine. And I really like how they were able to integrate a play feature without making it, really mess up the whole side of the figure. Because I've seen some of the earlier Warrior class figures where, the arm is completely useless except for the action feature. And that's definitely not the case here. He's got all the same normal articulation as the other arm. And if you really wanted to ignore that feature completely, you certainly could. And I think that's pretty well done. So I really like that about it. I don't need action features at all, I'll be honest. I'm not someone who cares for those. But if you're going to put one into the figure, at least do it in a way that it doesn't monopolize a whole side of the figure or make it so that articulation with that arm is completely worthless or whatever the case. So I appreciate that. I'm not a huge fan of this thing. I get why it happened. Like I said, I wish it was two halves that split apart so I could somehow mount it on the back, because I think that would look really cool. The other thing is, if they couldn't do that, it seems like this should be some kind of arm shield or something, doesn't it? I mean, I really feel like there should have been a way that you could either, like, put his arm in here. I mean, you kind of can. It doesn't really link in or anything, but you kind of can, jam something in here and maybe make it work if I balance it. So, I mean, that kind of works. And that's kind of neat. I think as, like, a shield melee weapon, that could really work. I feel like they could have put maybe like a little tab right here or something. I mean, he's got this peg hole right here on the side of the arm. Will that stay in there if I do that? I don't think so, but maybe I can... No, it doesn't quite line up. It's a shame. All they would have had to do is maybe extend this out a little bit, because he's got this connector hole right here on the side of his forearm, and I really feel like if I could make this work... no, I think it's like just not enough. Yeah, it's unfortunately just not quite lining up. But if they had just a little tab right there, a little peg, and then you could peg this in, and if this could just come in and boom, peg onto the side of his arm, I think that could really work as kind of like a melee shield weapon. I think something like that could be cool. I do appreciate that it holds the sword and has kind of like a sheath aspect to it, and they gave you the option to peg it down here on the waist or on the back. So you do have some options. Overall, I just kind of throw it to the side. It's just too big and bulky. I just think it doesn't quite work as far as being somewhere on the body. I would much rather just throw it to the side. But I would have really liked to be able to split it apart and put the wings on the back for the more classic Snarl design and feel. But if not, otherwise I would have liked it as kind of a melee shield weapon. But in any case, just some minor suggestions. But overall, I think this guy's pretty decent. This is standard Warrior class pricing, so I think it's like $14.99, $15.99, something like that. But yeah, I think he's fun. I'm very interested to see what else we get for Dinobots in this line. We've seen a couple leaks and things, but I'm definitely excited to check it out. But I think this guy's pretty successful. Solid little robot mode. Dino mode's okay, but really nice application, paint applications and details. So I think he's definitely a winner. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Please like, share, and subscribe. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. And as always, thanks so much for watching.